Hi, I'm back. I'll be reading some more from the Bible, and I am using the reading plan from the Daily Audio Bible app, and I'm in the chronological section, and I'll be reading for January 23, 2021. And so I'll be reading Genesis chapters 32 to 34. Genesis chapter 32. Laban, we are all selfish, but some of us have a real corner on the weaknesses. Laban's whole life was stamped by self-centeredness. His chief goal was to look out for himself. The way he treated others was controlled by that goal. He made profitable arrangements for his sister, Rebecca's marriage to Isaac, and used his daughters' lives as bargaining chips. Jacob eventually, e- Jacob eventually, eventually, Jacob eventually outmaneuvered Laban, but the older man was unwilling to admit defeat. His hold on Jacob was broken, but he still tried to maintain some kind of control by getting Jacob to promise by getting Jacob to promise to be gone for good. He realized that Jacob and Jacob's God were more than he could handle. On the surface, we may find it difficult to identify with Laban, but his selfishness is one point we have in common. Like him, we often have a strong tendency to control people and events to our benefit. Our our good reasons for treating others the way we do may simply be we do. Our good reasons for treating others the way we do may simply be a thin cover on our self-centered motives. We may not even recognize our own selfishness. One way to discover it is to examine our willingness to admit we are wrong. Laban cannot bring himself to do this. If you ever amaze yourself by what you say and do to avoid facing up to wrong actions, you are getting a glimpse of your selfishness in action. Recognizing selfishness is painful, but it is the first step on the road back to God. Strengths and accomplishments. Control two. Generations of marriages in the Abrahamic family. Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, quick-witted. Weaknesses and mistakes. Manipulated others for his own benefit. Unwilling to admit wrongdoing. Benefited financially by using Jacob, but never fully benefited spiritually by knowing and worshiping Jacob's gods. Lessons from his life. Those who set out to use people will eventually find themselves used. God's plan cannot be blocked. Vital statistics. Where HARRAN, occupation, wealthy, sheep breeder, relatives. Father, BETHUEL, sister, Rebecca, brother-in-law Isaac, daughters Rachel and Leah, son-in-law Jacob. Key verse. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night He rebuked you. Genesis chapter 31, verse 42. Laban's story is told in Genesis Laban's story is told in Genesis chapter 24, verse 1 to Genesis chapter 31, verse 55. Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Genesis chapter 32. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my lord that I may find favor in your eyes." When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into 2 groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become 2 camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted." He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me, and keep some space between the herds." He instructed the one in the lead, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'Who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you?' then you are to say they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us." He also instructed the second, the third, and all the others who followed the herds. "You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, 'Your servant Jacob is coming behind us.'" For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts. I am sending on ahead later. When I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Jacob wrestles with God. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched, as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, Let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, What is your name? Jacob. He answered. Then the man said, Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Jacob said, Please tell me your name. But he replied, Why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. Leah lived in a blunt and painful world. She observed it with sad eyes. Women in her day were considered property. Daughters were traded by their fathers in business deals. Leah's father Laban gave her to a man who did not love her. Perhaps it would be more fair to say that Jacob didn't love her as much as he loved her younger sister Rachel. But God loved her. Leah apparently could not see very well, but her sister looked great. In fact, Jacob agreed to work 7 years for Rachel's hand in marriage. Jacob kept his end of the contract, but Laban deceived his future son-in-law. He substituted Leah for Rachel under the wedding veil. By the time Jacob knew a switch had been made, he was already married. Laban excused his deception by citing a local custom that a younger daughter could not marry ahead of an older one. After a brief confrontation, Laban agreed to give Rachel to Jacob in exchange for another 7 years of work. And although Leah was not his first choice, Jacob accepted her as his wife. Leah revealed how she felt to Jacob in the name she gave their first son Reuben. The name expressed her desire to be noticed by her husband, because Leah and Rachel competed for Jacob's attention. There was constant friction in the family. They measured their worth against each other, but their ability to bear children. Leah was winning the fertility contest handily. When Rachel died bearing her second her second child, Benjamin. Leah's victory carried little satisfaction. The scriptures mention no more. No more children born to Jacob. Ironically, the greatest honor Jacob finally gave Leah was to bury her with his parents and grandparents in the cave at Machpelah, Genesis chapter 49, verse 31. When we fail to live at peace with the important people in our lives, we leave behind a tragic story. Although God loved Leah, we are not told of her response to it. We are not told of her response to him. Her inability to appreciate God's love also made her unable to love others. When we struggle to love others, we can be helped by reflecting on the fact that God loves us. If God's love doesn't free us, we need to think again. Strengths and accomplishments. For Jacob, 6 sons and 1 daughter collaborated with Jacob and Rachel to outwit Laban's ruthless manipulation. She is honored as one of the mothers of Israel. Ruth chapter 4, verse 11. Weaknesses and mistakes. Envied her sister Rachel over Jacob's love. Competed with Rachel for Jacob's attention and respect. Lessons from her life. Even wrong motives can't entirely cover the truth. Leah gave God specific credit in the birth of 5 of her sons. Opportunities for joy can be missed through wrong motives toward others. God has a way of using unexpected people to accomplish his purposes and plans. Vital statistics. Where? PADDANARAM. Occupation, wife, and mother, relatives. Father Laban, husband Jacob, daughter Dinah, sons Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Key verse. Then Leah said, God has presented me with a precious gift. This time my husband will treat me with honor because I have borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Genesis chapter 30, verse 20. Leah's story is told in Genesis chapters 29 to 35. She is also mentioned in Genesis chapter 46. In Genesis chapter 46, verses 15, verse 18, verse 31, and Ruth chapter 4, verse 11. Jacob meets Esau. Genesis chapter 33. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the woman and children. Who were these with you? He asked. Jacob answered, They are They are the children God has graciously given your servant. Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I meet to find favor in your eyes, my lord?" He said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty. My brother, keep what you have for yourself." "No, please," said Jacob. "If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the present that was brought to you. For God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way. I will accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard, just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant while I move along slowly, at the pace of the flocks and herds before me, and the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir." Esau said, "Then let me leave some of my men with you." "But why do that?" Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord." So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Sukkoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Sukkoth, after Jacob came from Paddan-aram. He arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan, and camped within sight of the city for 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Ham, the father of Shechem, the plotted ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it Elohim Israel. Dinah. As far as we know, Dinah was Jacob's only daughter. She lived among 10 older and 2 younger brothers. She grew up in a family rocketed by struggle between two sisters married to the same man. Dinah's mother Leah knew that Jacob loved her sister and rival Rachel. We don't know how the bitterness and jealousy between these women affected the only godchild in the family. By the time Dinah was a teenager, her family was living in Shechem, a town north of Bethel and Jerusalem in the Promised Land. Apparently, no one really paid much attention to Dinah until she went out for a walk in town one day. She was noticed and waved by Shechem, the son of the ruler of the city. Violated and shamed, Dinah found herself in the center of a family crisis. Shechem asked his father to arrange a marriage with Dinah, but in Jacob's and his son's eyes, Dinah had been damaged, and the family had been insulted. Jacob failed to provide any fatherly leadership in this situation, and his sons took matters into their own hands. The results were torrentious and bloody. In all of this, the victim was overlooked. Dinah was neither comforted nor consulted. Instead, she was treated with almost as much disrespect by her family as she was by SHECHEM. By handing her over to SHECHEM, they used Dinah as bait in a trap that led to the murder of all the men in the village. Dinah's brothers profited from the master's scar of SHECGM. Jacob was angry at his sons for their actions, but did nothing. Meanwhile, Dinah slipped back into oblivion. Her story reminds us of the tragedies that occur when family members are careless with each other. Someone ends up paying a high price. You probably know someone who can identify closely with Dinah. Perhaps you have experienced that same ANONYMITY as a victim who was unnoticed or forgotten. Remember several glimmers of hope. Even when everyone else forgets, God doesn't. When no one seems to notice, God sees. When no one seems to care, God cares. When you feel all the loan you want. And one of the first lessons God will teach you as you depend on Him is that there are others who also care and are willing to help. Begin to speak to God today in prayer about your past. Strengths and accomplishment. Jacob's only daughter, lessons from her life. Thoughtless avengers are often hurt the original victims a second time. Family members can be trampled in the rush for family honor. Vital statistics where PADDANARAM relatives, parents Jacob and Leah, 12 brothers, Aunt Rachel, grandparents Isaac and Rebecca, Laban, Uncle Esau. Key verse. Sometime later, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Genesis chapter 30, verse 21. Dinah's story is told in Genesis chapter 34. Her birth is mentioned in Genesis chapter 30, verse 21. Her birth is mentioned in Genesis chapter 30, verse 21. She is last mentioned in Genesis chapter 46, verse 15. Dinah and the SHECHEMITES. Genesis chapter 34. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah, had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When SHECHEM, son of HAMOR, the HIVID, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And SHECHEM said to his father HAMOR, "Get me this girl as my wife." And Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled. His sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shee and Potiphar's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife, intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I will pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife. Because the sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We will settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we will take our sister and go." Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem, the young man who was the most honored of all his father's family. Lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of the city to speak to the men of the city. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters, and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only, on the condition that our males be circumcised as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us." All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem and Potiphar's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where the sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?" Okay, that's all. Bye.